Good morning, my beautiful people. So I figured I would just do a quick YouTube video and explain my situation with my son. I know a lot of you have been, asking me questions about it, so I figured I would, do my makeup and talk about my situation with him. So let's get to it. So I had my son when I was 14. I tried taking care of him for a few years. It just didn't work out. I didn't want to be a mom. I felt like I was forced to be a mom, and it wasn't fair to me. It wasn't fair to him. I've said this numerous times. I thought that I did the right thing by placing him, with his grandmother. I allowed his grandmother, which is his dad, the man who raped me, to adopt him. I signed over my rights to her. I know a lot of you are questioning, why would you do that? This is a man who raped you. Why would you trust his mother to raise him? Now, at the time, I thought that was the best thing for him, I can't blame her for what her son did, Just like now, my son is sitting in jail on a murder charge. You can't blame me for what the hell he did. He's a grown-ass adult, The grown adults make their own decisions, Anyway, and at the time, she seemed like a nice lady. She was, a church-going lady, never cursed, never did drugs, never had a history of drug abuse, nothing. So I figured, hell, considering my household, I was a kid having a kid. I couldn't financially support him. I wasn't mentally stable, financially stable, emotionally stable. I was living in a household of domestic abuse, incest, drug addiction, alcoholism, just everything. And it wasn't fit for my son. I wanted my son to, have a better life than what I did. And I wanted him to, have a chance at life. So I figured I did the right thing for him. Oh, I thought I did. If I could turn back the hands of time, of course I would. I definitely would not have signed my rights over to him. I would have, told Children's Services when my aunt called them on me, told them that I want to get out of that house and just help me. Pretty sure they would have helped me, but, well, I'm not pretty sure, but anyway, what's done is done, right? But my aunt, she married her then husband. He was like 25 years older than her. And she married him, I believe, like 2 years before, all this happened, maybe 2 or 3 years before this happened. So, she had her tubes tied, so she couldn't have any more kids. And I swear to God, even to this day, that her intentions were, like when she found out I was pregnant, was, this is a way for me to raise, to have a baby. I swear to God I did. And everybody else did too. So, long story short, after I had my son, my aunt encouraged me to go out with my friends, go out with my cousin and her friends, and be a teenager, She would always tell me, oh, you just need to go out and hang out, live life, you are still a kid and don't worry about him. He's in good hands. I'm going to watch him and all that stuff. So this was like almost an every weekend thing. So when she encouraged me to do this and I did it, but then she would turn around and talk shit about me to my cousin, my cousin's friends, to her husband, to everybody, talking about like, I'm a piece of shit mom. I don't want to take care of him, all this stuff. Lady, you are the one who's encouraging me to go out. Like, I just didn't understand her whole concept. Anyway, so it got to the point to where, like I said, I tried taking care of my son. I couldn't do it. I was about to turn 18, and my aunt knew my plans of moving out. She wasn't too happy about that. I remember her telling me, well, you can go ahead and move out, but just leave your son here. I'll take care of him, blah, 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 so you can just focus on, working and going to college and just, oh, no, lady, you were insane if you think I'm gonna leave my son with you. And that's exactly what I told her. So at the time I was on probation, for a domestic violence charge against her, because a year before then, me and her got into an argument. I came home one day, I talked about this in my previous video, so I'm just gonna give you a quick recap. I came home one day, she was watching my son, I was at school, and my son was just learning how to walk, and he was, you know, on the top of the stairs, right by the basement stairs, okay? And the door was wide open. He could have fell and broke his neck or whatever, and he had a dirty diaper on, and I was bitching about it. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? She was completely drunk, completely wasted, high on coke or meth or whatever. I was pissed. I think it was coke at the time. Anyway, so she kept following me around the house. I kept telling her, hey, get the hell away from me because I'm gonna hit you. Just get away from me. She wouldn't listen to me, so I ended up hitting her. She called the police on me, thinking I was gonna go to jail. They were like, she's underage. No, we're not taking her to jail, you know, for this. Thank God. So my grandmother came. Me and my son went to my grandmother's and stayed there. So she knew my plans for, you know, wanting to move out at the time. And at the time, I was not going to school. Okay, I was skipping school a lot, and that's a violation of my probation. So she called my probation officer that day, and she called Children's Services, thinking that she's gonna call Children's Services because I was smoking weed, not going to school, and all this shit, not taking care of him, which I was not taking care of him. Okay, you know, but again, she was encouraging me to go out. So it made the whole situation was completely fucked. Anyway, Children's Services came. They did a drug test. I was smoking weed, like I said, and I was drinking. She was supplying most of it, not the weed, but, you know, the alcohol. And I told him, like, yeah, you know, I am drinking and smoking. So they took my son because of me smoking weed. All right. And they did a background check on every single household member. They found out that my aunt was a registered sex offender, so she sure as hell was not going to get my son. She failed to, you know, realize that. And not only that, but there was a domestic violence case against my uncle and my younger cousin. At the time, they always used to get into fights all the time. And my uncle used to beat the shit out of him. Like, literally beat the shit out of him. And he was only, I believe, maybe between 10 to 12 years old. I think it started when he was like 9 or 10. Of him beating the shit out of him. So anyways, so they placed my son with my grandmother. I ended up going to jail because my PO showed up. And I stayed in jail, I believe, for like a week. And, you know, the stipulations were my grandmother was not allowed to bring my son around my aunt under no circumstances unless she was with them. She failed to do that. Okay, she would allow my son to go over there on the weekends, and she wasn't allowed to do that. So she found out, Children's Services found out about it, and they took my son and placed him in a foster home. And at the time, you know, I had gotten out. Initially, they placed me in a foster home. I stayed there for a week. I think I just turned 18. They placed me in a foster home, Fairfield County, Ohio, in Lancaster, Ohio. How are you going to place an adult in freaking a foster home? It made no fucking sense. It was weird. The dad was, I could tell he was a pedo. He was fucking weird. He even made a pass at me, and the wife was even more weirder. I feel like she knew about his obsession with little girls, or with foster kids or whatever. I was downstairs in the basement. It was a finished basement. It was a nice home, a finished basement. The room had 2 bunk beds. I was on the bottom. There was, you know, four girls. There was bars on the windows. And they also had a security system to where, you know, they had those lines across. So they would put it on at 9 o'clock at night, and you could not leave your room until like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning the next day. It was insane. Anyway, needless to say, I called my friend at the time, my only friend that I had, and I told her to pick me up from school because they had to drive an hour to and from my school, because I was not going to switch school because of this bullshit. Absolutely not. And I wanted to make their life a living hell just for me having to even be there. So I made them drive. Otherwise, you know, I could have switched schools you know, locally, and I was not going to do that. So anyway, I ran away from the foster home. I ended up going to my aunt's house because all my clothes were there. I heard them grab my clothes, my cell phone, all that shit, and I left. That's when I ended up going to the Short North. Okay, back in the day, the Short North was not a place for anybody, let alone a fucking, you know, suburban white girl. Okay, and we go there. Well, I go there. I meet this guy, and he soon became one of my clients. Stay the night with him, everything, and I think I stayed there maybe for like two or 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks, maybe even a whole month. And I was on the run, obviously, because I left, you know, the foster home. So I had a warrant out for me for a violation of my probation. I wanted to see my son. I missed my son. So I called my grandmother. I'm like, will you come pick me up? Like, I need to see him. Like, this is like fucking killing me. So she picked me up. Her and my aunt picked me up, took me to my grandmother's. All of a sudden, my aunt, okay, I think my grandmother was at the hospital. No, rewind. Now I remember, my grandmother was at the hospital. I did call my grandmother, said, hey, I want to come home. She called my aunt. My aunt came to pick me up. That's what it was. She came to pick me up, took me to my grandmother's because I was going to stay at my grandmother's. I was not going to stay there at her place. And because at the time, like, me and her husband never really got along either. Like, we didn't get along at all. He was a disgusting, weird person, and yeah. So I wasn't allowed back in the house anyway because I made it very clear and vocal to Children's Services how disgusting of a household that was, and he didn't like that too well. So anyway, I was at my grandmother's, and all of a sudden, she leaves, but she leaves, you know, my cousin with me. Okay. What it was, and what I found out later on, was that she left my cousin there with me to make sure that I wasn't going to leave. Because what she did was she called my probation officer. She called the local police department to have me picked up. So here I am on my way to fucking jail, and my son was in a foster home, and it was a freaking mess. Okay, so I got in contact, I think I was only in jail like over the weekend, because I believe it was like on a Friday that I went there, and I believe I went to the court on a Monday. The judge was like, look, you're an adult, you could do whatever you want. If you want to drop out of high school, that's on you. I'm not gonna put you back in foster care or whatever. So you shouldn't have done that in the first place, sir. Anyway, so they released me. I go to my grandmother's, I believe, and then like shortly after I ended up back on the streets. Like I stayed with like my friend for a couple of nights with her. Her family didn't like me because she felt as if I was a bad influence on her, which I may have been, whatever. Life is too fucking short. Anyway, so I had to leave, and I remember her and her mother dropping me off on the north side of Columbus. So anyway, I survived. Literally on the streets with nowhere to go, no money, no nothing. So it's okay. But I remember getting in contact with my son's grandmother, and I told her what was going on. I said, look, I can't take care of him. I don't want, and these foster parents wanted to adopt my son. My grandmother was all for it. My aunt was all for them adopting him. But they weren't all for, you know, his grandmother adopting him, which which it didn't even matter because it's not their say so anyway, right? So, and I know a lot of you are thinking like, why would you allow his grandmother, the man who raped you, his mother, to take in your son? Well, I'll tell you this. I said this before. I cannot blame her for what her pedo son did to me. I can't, and I won't. I will never do that. And just like, you know, now my son is sitting in the county jail in South Carolina on a murder charge, and nobody can blame me for what my son did. He's a grown man. He made his own decisions, his own choice. Anyway, but you talked to his grandmother today, and she blames me. She blames me for why my son is sitting in the county jail. But that's for a later time. Anyway, so you know, I told her, like, I just want him to grow up in a nice, happy, safe, drama-free environment. And unfortunately, my house and my family is just not, it's just not that. And she was excited. She was excited to get him and everything. Again, the stipulations were that Paul, which was his father, and the only reason why I'm saying his name is because he's a pedo. He's a pedo. And I want everybody to be aware that he's a fucking pedo. Because his mother and his family failed to mention that to people. Even now, they will say, oh, he's doing a 10-year sentence for, you know, raping a 19-year-old foreign exchange student. No, honey, he's in there for that and for the rapes and drugging of 2 little girls under the age of 13. So, or under the age of 12, I believe. So, tell the whole story, not just a little bit of it. Anyway, so Children's Services said that he was not allowed around, Paul was not allowed around him under no circumstances whatsoever. She agreed to it, of course, and I should have known better. I should have known better. I should have known that she was not going to listen. I don't know why I didn't think about that, but whatever. So shortly after I signed over my rights, and I believe it was like maybe 4 months. I'm trying to remember like the exact time frame. I can't really remember. It was so long ago. They moved, her and my son moved to South Carolina. They moved with Paul. Paul ended up moving. And I guess that he wanted to move to South Carolina because he was in, and now this is honest to God truth. I remember Paul picking me up one day. Okay. It was shortly after I had my daughter. Okay. She was like, I don't know, a couple weeks old. I wanted to see my son. So he picked me up. My son was in preschool, I believe, preschool. And so anyway, Paul goes and picks my son up from the bus stop and brings him back to his place. Okay, so it was me, my son, and him. And Paul, I remember Paul being on the phone, okay, that night, talking to somebody, okay? He had them on speakerphone, but he was in his room, and I believe he thought that I couldn't hear. But, oh, I heard everything, honey. I heard everything. Anyway, so I guess he was having sex with a 12 or 13-year-old girl, okay? And she thought she was pregnant. And I remember him being on the phone yelling and cussing, like, man, you better tell her not to say that. You know, I think he was like 23 or 24 at the time. I can't remember, but anyway, and she was like, I remember the other person on the phone was like, oh, well, she's not going to say that. And he was like, well, you better tell her to tell them that, you know, she told me that she was 18. Again, he's a pedo. So that's what they do. And after that incident, okay, the next day, that's when he went to go get my son from the bus stop. He brings him back so I can spend time with him. And he had little girls, like he had people who were like 13, 14, 15 years old over. There was like 2 girls and 1 guy. It was fucking weird. It was weird. Why would you have little kids over at your house? Like that's weird to me. I just felt, felt off. I didn't like the environment, the situation. I told him, like, you got to take me back. You got to take me back to my grandmother's. I just don't feel right. I'm not going to be hanging out. And he's drinking and smoking and doing drugs with these kids as well. No, I don't want no part of it. And while we were on our way down, I told him, I said, well, I'm taking my son with me. Like, he's going to stay with me at my grandmother's. He's like, no, you're not. He's like, if you take him out, Ashley, he's like, I swear to God, I will call the police and have you arrested for kidnapping. That's exactly what he told me. I remember I was sitting in the back because he had a pickup truck. I was sitting in the back seat. I was sitting in the front seat. Because I don't think there was a back seat. If there was a back seat, but it was a little back seat. And my daughter was in the back seat. She was in her car seat. And I was in the front seat. He was driving. And my son was sitting next to me. And I kept telling him, like, no, I'm going to take him. I'm going to take him. Like, what the fuck are you doing with these little kids? And so, yeah, he's like, well, they're not little kids. They're 18, 19 years old. No, they're not. No, they're not. They definitely were not. Like, why? How do I know? Because I was having a conversation with one of the little girls. Like, come on now. Like, you're sick, dude. You're fucking sick. So that was the last time I saw my son. I couldn't take him with me. And anyway, shortly after that, maybe not even a whole week after that, they all moved to South Carolina. They just packed up and left. They didn't call me, didn't tell me, nothing. And I didn't find anything out about like where they were at until 2015. At this point, 2015, I just had my youngest boy, and I was married to my ex-husband. I was watching the news, and what comes on? Paul's mugshot, because he was posing as a immigrant officer for ICE, and had raped a 19-year-old foreign exchange student, handcuffed her to the bed and everything, and raped her. And he raped and drugged 2 little girls under the age of 13 or 12. I can't remember the exact, but I believe it might have been, under the age of 12. But, yeah. So he ends up getting a 10-year mandatory sentence. He gets out like in a couple years. I believe he gets out like in 23, I believe. So, even till this day, you ask his mother, hey, why is he in jail? Why is he in prison? Oh, he's in prison for the rape of a 19-year-old, woman, blah, blah, blah. She said she raped him. Or she said that he raped her, but, I don't think he did that. He didn't. She will say that. Literally say that. Tell the whole story, honey. Tell the whole story. Don't lie. Don't act like your son is innocent and he's this good, God-fearing man, because he's far from it. He's far from it. Okay? And how I know that he or she is going around saying this, because one of my son's friends had reached out to me a couple days ago. My son reached out to her. I guess he wants money on his books. And she was telling me that she knows about his dad, because I guess like Cameron or his grandmother had told her that he was in there for, the rape of a 19-year-old foreign exchange student. I said, no, that's absolutely not true. That's true. That part is true. But, he is also in there for, 2 little girls under the age of 13 or 12. She didn't know that. Well, why don't you know that? Like, if you talk to his grandmother, why isn't his grandmother, of course, she's not going to be honest, that's her baby, her sick, demented baby. So of course she's not going to be honest, or whatever. But anyway, so 2015, I find this all out. I had to reach out to Paul and to get in contact with my son and, you know, all this stuff. Long story short, I end up finding his grandmother on Facebook, okay? I send her a message, and she has Cameron messaging me from her account. Cameron, my son, was being so disrespectful to me, so disrespectful at the time, you know, calling me all kinds of hoes and, you know, all this stuff. All I'm good for is laying on my back and having kids, and, you know, I'm not his mother, like all this shit. I was completely baffled. Like of course it hurt my feelings, you know, but I was like completely shocked. Like, I can't believe my own son, my firstborn, is talking to me like this. Come to find out, obviously, you know, Paul and his grandmother, I'm not too sure about his grandmother, but I know Paul for a fact was telling him some bullshit lies about me. You know, go figure. That's not a surprise. But anyway, so we after that point in time, I already made a decision, you know, that I was not going to reach back out to him until he turned 18. Like, I'm not doing it. You know, if he wanted to reach out to me, you know, then like great. But I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. So anyway, a couple years later, I was just getting out of prison again for the second time, and he reaches out to me. Okay, we start talking, and of course, you know, he was talking about, you know, he needed a car, he needed money for a car and all this stuff. And let me say this, okay? I understand how kids are, okay? And I understand, like, his logic, like, oh, well, you know, you're my mother, you know, you should be financially supporting me. Like, I understand his concept, but in all actuality, no, honey, I signed over my rights to your grandmother, given her all power and responsibilities to her, okay? So anyway, I never told him that. Like, I would never say that to him, but it's the truth. It's the truth. So me and him starts talking, okay? All of a sudden, things go quiet after a year. Now, mind you, we wasn't talking like every day, but we was talking enough for me to notice that he just fell off the face of this earth. So about a month goes by, and I'm like, what the hell? So I do a Google search on him, and what pops up is that he ended up getting charged with murder. I contact his grandmother, and I'm like, first off, like, I understand that I signed my rights over to you. I get it, but I'm still his mother, and I should have been notified about something as tragic as this. Like, why didn't you contact me? Like, this is crazy. I'm still his mother. Like, you wouldn't have even had him had it been for me. So she contacts me back. First thing that comes out of her mouth is about money. Well, now that you know, what are you going to do about it? What do you mean? What am I going to do about it? What can I do about it? Well, she wanted me to pay for a $30,000 attorney. Excuse me? What makes you think that I even have... Now, mind you, this was a couple months after COVID had happened. So I was on furlough for my job. By the way, I'm still on furlough from that job. And I only had my unemployment at the time coming in. And, you know, I told her, like, there's nothing I can do. Like, there's no way I can afford a $30,000 attorney. Hell, even when I was in trouble, I never paid that much for an attorney. You think no. And I understand, you know, my kids are different than me. I totally get it. So don't come for me. I get it. But in all actuality, like, you have all rights to him. He's a grown-ass man now. Like, There's no way I'm forking over $30,000. That's crazy. So anyway, I told her that, but in the meantime, she asked me to do a GoFundMe for my son. She wanted me to set up a page for my son. She tells my son what I was going to do, that I was setting up a GoFundMe and everything. He says, no, don't tell her, don't have her do that. She made my son believe that I was doing the GoFundMe by myself. Like, I came up with the idea. I didn't even want to do the GoFundMe, but she pressured me to do the GoFundMe because she wanted me to do it. And then you're going to tell my son that, you know, whatever. It was just a bunch of bullshit. Anyway, so, you know, I end up reaching out because I know there's a lot of attorneys that does pro bono, okay? Or they'll, you know, look at the case, and if they truly believe that they can win and get their name out there or whatever, they will take on the case. So I reached out to quite a few attorneys. I think like either maybe 3 or 4 attorneys. Wrote them this long ass email, the long ass letter, gave them his grandmother's information because that's his guardian. Well, not his guardian, he's a grown man now, but you know what I mean. That's his only way of, you know, communicating with him. Sorry, my phone came up with that is about to die, so that's great. Anyway, so I don't know what happened with that, but all I do know is after that, I, you know, told his grandmother, there's nothing I can do. I cannot afford a $30,000 attorney. Like, that's insane. That's a lot of money. I don't even know why you would even think that I had that to give. That's crazy. So I remember putting money on his books at one time because I had the extra money, and I did it. I maxed him out for his phone account and his commissary one time. And then shortly after that, that's when I told him, like, I can't, you know, pay for a $30,000 attorney. That's when all communication stopped. She completely ignored me. She would text me like every day for like 2 weeks straight. Saying, oh, well, are you going to give money to me? Are you going to give me money? Here's the attorney. You can directly put money into, you know, directly pay the attorney yourself. Lady, I just told you that I cannot afford it. Why are you doing this? You're making me feel a certain type of way now. And I refuse to have you or anybody else make me feel a certain type of way. Like, this is not going to happen. So, anyways, after a couple weeks of her, you know, texting me every day, all communication stopped, which I was, you know, thinking that was going to happen. Well, I go and write my son a few letters, okay? And when I did that, I guess I didn't have like his inmate number on, you know, on the letter correctly. So, you know, they end up sending me his letter back. Okay. Not only mine, but, you know, my daughter, his sister. I'm just dropping everything. So she wrote him a letter as well, and it came back. So, I reached out to, now Paul had married this young girl. I'm not too sure how old she is, because if I ask, you know, because I mentioned it to his grandmother that she looks awfully young, and she was from the Philippines, and he went to the Philippines and brought her here, okay? And I'm pretty sure if I put my money on it, I know for a fact that she was underage when they got married. I know for a fact that that's true. And here in America, whatever, you know, to get a green card, you know, you can marry somebody, and you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. And I'm pretty, obviously, I know for a fact that their family okayed it because, oh, she's moving to America, so, you know, whatever, she's gonna have this great life. Okay. Little does she know, her husband is a freaking pedo and a disgusting ass person. A piece of shit. That's what he is. Not only that, but I also found out that he has a charge for cruelty to children because he punched my son in his ear. And my son he's partially deaf in that ear now. And this was when my son was like 12 or 13. And it was at church, mind you. Such a great person he is, let me tell you. So anyway, I remember, writing, and I still had the letters. And so I wrote him 3 letters. Well, it was 3 letters going out, 2 for me and then 1 for my daughter. And they all came back. Again, like there was the wrong inmate number. So I sent Paul's wife a message on Facebook. We're like, hey, I don't have his correct inmate number. Can you please let me know what it is? Can you write, I need to know. She saw the message, but she completely ignored me. Matter of fact, I'm going to go back and screenshot the message. I'm pretty sure she blocked me. Pretty sure she did. So anyway, and then I also messaged his grandmother, asked her the same thing. Again, crickets. So, since she didn't get her way of me paying for a $30,000 attorney, I guess, I'm this horrible person and I don't need to talk to my son. So that's where I'm at with my situation with my son now. I'm waiting, obviously, for him to write out to prison so that I can pay him my damn self. He had a friend reach out to me. She reached out to me. First off, let me say this. Okay, the girl, she seems nice, okay? But she left a comment in my comment section on TikTok, like, hey, your son, but she said his name, okay, wants you to reach out and put money on his books. Okay, something like that. That's something totally private and personal. Why would you comment a message like that? First off, I was going to cuss her out. The other side of me was about to come out, was about to creep out. And, but I, kept my composure. I messaged her and I said, who are you? Like, how do you even know my son? Like, she didn't even send me a message. She just, left that comment. Like, you're not going to do that. Like, don't leave personal stuff like that. I didn't even say my son's name, before. I never said his name. So, but you're just here, all willy-nilly and going to say his name. Like, that's not cool. That's not cool. But whatever. And she proceeds to tell me that she talked to him and he wanted me to put money on his books and everything, which, okay, like, I can do that, but I need information on how to do that. Like, I can't, first off, I would do anything for my kids, all 5 of my kids. That includes my son, okay? If I have it, okay? I am going to put money on his books. Okay, but it's not going to be like a constant thing, like a regular thing. I have bills and rent and my situation with my 3 babies. I have my daughter upstairs. I have to I take care of them all. I take care of my daughter all by myself. Like, her dad doesn't come around or nothing. My 3 babies, I had to start from complete scratch. I didn't even have one single anything for them. So when we moved here to this house, each one of them has their own bedroom. So I had to get furniture, bedding. Like, obviously a lot of people from my TikTok had sent stuff for me to decorate their rooms with, but everything else was for me. Like I said, their dressers, their beds, that's shit's expensive, okay? Every single piece of clothing that they got, every single piece of, coats, sweaters, jackets, shoes, boots, everything, toys, so I had to start from the bottom. so I hope that he understands that. Like, I hope that he understands that I can't do this all the time, and I won't do it all the time. But I'll do as much as I can, you know? And I hope that he doesn't think that he's going to, and I know how, like I said, I know how kids are, because I was the same way with my dad, my biological dad, okay? Every time I would have a conversation with him, I would always want money. Every single time. And I feel like that's going to be the case with my son. I hope that's not. Like, I hope that's not. Like, I really do want to have a relationship with my son. I miss my son. He was my firstborn. You know, I don't want to talk too much about it, because I don't want to start, I'm doing my makeup and I don't want to start crying. But, you know, that's my boy. And if I could turn back the hands of time, you best believe your ass that I would. Unfortunately, I can't. I'm just not looking forward to when his dad gets out of prison, because I know his dad is going to try to contact me, and I don't want no involvement with his disgusting father at all. So yeah, here in a couple years, by then, you know, my book would already be out, and I'm pretty sure he's going to purchase, or his grandmother or his mother is going to purchase it, and then, you know, have him read it and everything. And it's going to have a lot of details about how disgusting and pedo of a person he is. So, and the only reason why I am mentioning, you know, his real name in the book is because he's a pedo and he deserves to be exposed for the sick shit that he does. Because I guarantee within 5 or 10 years, after he, probably not even a whole 5 or 10 years, but once he's released, I bet you anything, he's gonna go right back to prison for the same shit. Watch, I guarantee it. Guarantee it. Anywho, I'm gonna get off here, guys. Thank you for listening, and hopefully this answers a lot of your guys' questions about my relationship and my situation with my son. I don't want anybody to leave if you leave negative comments, I can't do anything about it. I'm not one to go through every single comment and, you know, delete or whatever. You know, everybody is open to their own opinion and their own, you know, how they feel. I totally get it and I understand. But please just understand that, you know, I thought that I was doing the right thing for my son. Apparently not, you know, because not only that, but his grandmother knew that he was selling drugs out of her home. And she didn't do anything about it. She allowed him to do that. So anyway, but thank you guys for listening. I'm gonna try to do story times every day and just post it on YouTube. I'm trying to channel my energy over to YouTube rather than TikTok. TikTok is, you know, it's great and everything, but there's too many haters over there, and I understand they're going to come over here, but YouTube is it's a better place for people like me and my content. Let me just say that. So anyway, I love you guys and see you guys later.